femininity as a physical asset encourage other women to use it at their benefit. She then says to other women that if you want to keep your man in your arms, you must act like you are the other women or mistress. You must always take care of your body and keep your house clean and smell nice. This is why men will not get bored of you as shown in the third and the fourth verses. She suggests other women to passionately attend to their men's need. Well, ladies and gentlemen, women probably appear to be in a dominated position of the relationship, but they actually take advantage of the relationship they build.
Meanwhile, as the result of male domination, women often faces violence. Physical violence, which causes bodily injuries, and psychological violence, which causes emotional harms, are depicted in the song Violence. The phrase means extreme violence. The female speaker experiences being in a relationship with a violent man, that she needs an ambulance to save her life. She also tries to draw a fine line between pains from loving hard and getting beaten, as elaborated in the second and third verses. She is beaten by her man, yet she receives that willingly. And although she might seem like a punching bag, she takes the violence as an expression of love. She understands that love never goes effortlessly, because there will always be sacrifices and compromises. She thus enjoys sadism from her man, that she might turn into a masochist as she begs him to give her more violence. Meanwhile, the psychological violence is expressed in the fourth and fifth verses. It is apparent that the female speaker suffers psychological violence from her man in form of verbal abuse. She is parallelized with deadly nightshade, which is a highly poisonous plant, and poison ivy, which is a plant that can cause rash if it is touched. This paralyzation is clearly a degrading remark, because women are thought as dangerous creatures that should be kept at distance. However, she thinks of her man's verbal abuse as a small price to pay for affection. She remains adoring her dominating abuser, because the more violent he is, the more love she gains. And another kind of violence is done sexually, described in M.Hum Way Up to the Top. It is when a woman receives an unwanted sexual act from a man. The first verse illustrates that the woman has to be sexually harassed. When a high-powered studio mogul makes sexual advances, she seizes the moment as a stepping stone for her musical career. Post-feminism believes that women are sexual beings free to use their body in any way they desire, including as an asset to improve their lives. It means that any case of sexual advance is a two-way street. The second verse verifies this intent. The female speaker is thus able to enjoy the pleasures of life. She proudly proclaims her accomplishment from capitalizing her sexuality, while other girls are stupid for not doing so.
Thus, it is concluded that the way progressive 21st century American post-feminists women approach male domination is different from the conservative feminists. From the post-feminist perspective, every party in a relationship has the freedom to define their own domestic rules as long as consensual agreement. If a woman enjoys BDSM like Anastasia Steele in 50 Shades of Grey, then she is allowed to have it. Women also have the personal right to decide her role and position in any relationship she is in. The shifting response toward men's dominating conduct embraces the progressive post-feminism values in upholding the individual liberation to be oneself and has the final decision over their own choice. That's our presentation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to the presenters. Finally, our last presentation for the day by our undergraduate student Nur Hafiza binti Abu Bakar, promoting Islamic teachings through literature, a study of Americ's work.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good evening I bid to everyone. So my name is Nur Hafiza. So I am still currently doing my degree in Bachelor of English Language and Literature, specializing in literature. So my topic for presentation today is regarding an American author, Yahya Emery. So what makes this author special to compare with other American authors? The reason why he's special because he is a Muslim revert. He reverted to Islam at a very young age, which when he was 19 years old. So my topic for today's presentation is promoting Islamic teachings through literature, a study of Emery's work. So a little bit about Yahya J. Emery. He was born and raised in a Christian family, and he reverted to Islam at the age of 19 in 1989. During that time, he was still a freshman at Michigan State University. He graduated with a degree in history. Besides knowing as an author, he is also an educator and a lecturer. He worked as a vice principal at an Islamic school, and he was the former president of the Islamic Foundation of North America. And he is famously known in publishing American-oriented literature on Islam, and he also publishes books for both children and adults. So the books that I'm going to discuss today, I'm going to explain the books that are written by him, are his non-fiction book. It's titled that I'm going to show it to you later on. So this is a quote by Qasim Najjar, a founding member of the Islamic Foundation of North America, that explains about Yahya Emery. So Yahya Emery has been writing, researching, and publishing texts about Islam for the last decade. Specifically, his goal is to examine what is truly advocated within the essence of Islam, rather than what is done incorrectly in the name of Islam. So what we can say that about Yahya Emery, that we can truly see his passion for writing and how determined he is in producing good literature to share with other people and to acknowledge others about Islam by being a Muslim revert. So before I talk about his book, I'm going to briefly discuss about the situation of Islam in America. As you all know that post-September 11 attack marked the starting point where Muslims received major discriminations by West. However, opinions and views on Islam have become more positive in recent years compared to the past years. This is due to the educational system in the world today, where they have improved themselves on the views and perspectives on Islam. And according to Pew Research Center in 2017, a survey proved that 48% of Muslim Americans encountered at least one incident of discrimination. And this shows that living as a Muslim in a non-Muslim country really needs a lot of strength and courage in order to face the discrimination, and also that this kind of discrimination is affected by the negative portrayal on Islam by the media, and this leads to unwanted perspectives regarding Islam and Muslims in general. And thus, proper literary guidance to enlighten Americans about Islam is needed. And this is why the books by Yahya Emery show that his books help to enlighten the Americans or the non-Muslims about Islam. So these are his two selected books. The first one is The Life and Work of Muhammad, published in 2002, and the second book is The Complete Idiot's Guide to Understanding Islam, published in 2011. Okay, going on to the first book. So as for the first book, what the book is about, a quote by Yahya Emery in this book. He says that in this book you will see both sides of this man, which is the Prophet Muhammad. You will see him in his daily life as a husband, father, and a friend, as well as in his more public capacity as a guide, teacher, prophet, lawgiver, and judge. So this book basically it covers comprehensively every phase and stage of Prophet's life. It it also states that it basically just talks about the whole progress from before the Prophet was born until the end, until the passing of the Prophet. So there are 4 important issues that are discussed in the book. So as for the first part, it talks about Muslims' early life and roots. The second one, the coming of prophethood. Third, the struggle for survival. And the fourth part, tomorrow for the world. I'm going to briefly discuss these 4 parts in this presentation. Okay, for the first part, Muhammad's early life and roots. This part discusses on the situation and environment of Arab country and the history of Arabian society. So this part talks about how the country was like and under whose ruling was it during the pre-Islamic era. It also narrates on the birth of the Prophet. It describes all the admirable qualities and also the challenges that Prophet Muhammad had to endure after the passing of his grandfather. In this first part as well, we'll be able to see how the pre-Islamic era was like to compare back then during the pre-Islamic era to today during the Prophet's time. And also it discusses the condition of the society before the coming of Islam, before the Prophet received his revelation, how the society was back then, they did idol worshipping, women and orphans were given fewer and unfair rights, and female infanticide was also widespread. And for the second part of the book, it discusses on the Prophet's journey and how he received the revelation. It also talks about Prophet's strategy in spreading da'wah that was done in stages. And during the early times when he received the revelation, he had a gradual spread in giving da'wah to the people of Mecca. And Prophet was also unwelcome due to the revelation that he received, because back then during the pre-Islamic era, the people of Mecca worship gods that their foregrandmothers believed. So when Islam came and the way that Prophet spread out the message, they were against it. And also, in this part, it also narrates the biggest and hardest challenge that the Prophet faced was that he lost his wife, his beloved wife, Khadijah, because when he received his revelation, the only person that supported him was Khadijah. And throughout this chapter, this part, positive qualities that are narrated through stories rather than being explained directly, it basically describes the positive attributions of Prophet Muhammad himself. As for the third part, it is about the struggle for survival. This part basically talks about the major victories that the Muslims and the Prophet involved in battles. So the major victory in the Battle of Badr helped to strengthen the political conditions of the Muslims during that time. And through this part, Yahya Emery explains the strong sense of leadership and intelligent strategies plotted by the Prophet and eventually led to their winning in the battle. So Muslims basically congregated in unity, fighting for Islam, and they gained their title as martyrs. And today, the concept of martyrdom in Islam has been wrongly conceptualized. This is due to a number of incidents that happen in the name of jihad that makes other people have this kind of negative perceptions towards Islam. And jihad in Islam, this jihad does not promote the concept of violence, and jihad is not a declaration of war against other religions. And in this chapter, in this part, it has been explained comprehensively in detail that Prophet did not use any violence to attack his enemies. And for the fourth part is about tomorrow for the world. It basically describes this transformation of the city of Mecca that transformed into an Islamic city. And Islam also reached beyond the land of Arabic as the Prophet approached leaders of other civilizations to spread Islam. The passing of the Prophet is also narrated in this part, and how much impact it actually gave to the Muslims during that time. And Prophet's contributions are still remembered until today by the Muslims. So the sacrifices he made for the sake of Islam show us that he is the best role model for humanity. Also, a book by historian Michael Hart, the 100 ranking of the most influential persons in history, he ranked Prophet Muhammad as the first most influential compared to other leaders and rulers that are known in the world. So, what can we actually receive from the book? So, insight for the readers. The best characters of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ prove that Islam is the religion of peace, and how Islam is being portrayed by the media today is totally the opposite depiction of Islam, and the events that occurred from the beginning until the passing of the Prophet Muhammad remain incomparable and give lessons to the humanity. So going on to the second book, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. As for the book, this book is about, is present as another quote by Qasim Najjar about this book. The book presents a bird's-eye view of the Islamic tapestry in illogical and easy to understand format. So what this book talks about is, it comprehensively talks about Islam, it discusses about Islam. So there are 7 parts that you will be able to get from this book. So the first part is introducing Islam, the spiritual world in Islam, the 5 pillars on Islam, Islam and other religions, regulating life within the laws of Islam, the history of Islam, and the last one is the legacy of Islam. So I'm going to talk about the 5 pillars of Islam, and I'm going to emphasize on the first one, which is Shahada. There are 5 bases of Islamic faith, which is Shahada, confession of faith, Salah, daily prayer, Zakah, annual charity, fasting, month-long fasting, Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. So basically these are comprised of a system for the Muslims to abide and fulfill. These practices are done to show their real purposes in life as a Muslim. So for the confession of faith, the monotheistic belief, that is to believe only one God, Allah alone. And due to, based on the statement that we can see that idol worshipping is against Islamic belief, so how does Islam actually view the idols of other religions? Thus, the destruction of idols actually depends on the situational context. And then there is no compulsion in religion, and the choice of religion must be free. What it means by this is that the principle in Islam is in religion the choice of religion must be a free choice. Therefore, a forced conversion is a worthless one. And the final part of Shahada is actually to acknowledge that Muhammad is Allah's prophet, who is the perfect role model, not just for the Muslim but to everyone. By stating that Muhammad is God's messenger, we are pledging ourselves to practicing what he preached and doing what he did by looking at him as our role model. And also there is a special word that is used to describe the actions of the Prophet, which is the Sunnah. Okay, so to end my presentation, so basically what I can see from both of his books is that Yahya Emerick used simple language to convey his messages. So the importance of using simple language in literature is that when an author writes in simple way to convey the messages that he wants to convey, so that other people can easily understand by reading the books. And the usage of simple words and less use of jargons make the desired messages can be transferred accordingly. And thus the art of conveying message works best when the author or the speaker uses direct language. And also the last part, last but not least, literature is the best platform to educate other people about Islam. And thank you.
Now we have a question and answer session. It will be moderated by Dr. Mahmudul Hassan.
We have very limited time for some questions and answers, please. We have 8 presenters, not 8 plus, because in some cases there are 2 or 3. So many presenters. Please, you ask your question. You can ask your questions to each other, one presenter to the other. Okay? No questions?
Probably because it's in a long period of time and then begin to forget the first place that they were talking about.
Okay, can I begin then? I have questions, plenty of questions. Okay. So, Quradul Ain, can you tell us why does Mohsin Hamid use the term fundamentalist? In what sense?
Yeah, I think there are different kinds of fundamentalism he's encountering in America in post 9/11 situation. For example, American corporate cultures too much focus on corporate culture, too much focus on economic ideals, and the Americans too much focus on American nationalism in post 9/11 world. They themselves are getting fundamentalist when they started the American nationalist rhetoric, that especially in the American media. And that was the worldview they were generating at that moment, which excluded and created Muslims as outsiders. So that was basically the fundamentalism that Mohsin was saying, that I am not that kind of fundamentalist if I am an American. I am more a reluctant.
Do you think he is pointing to another sphere of fundamentalism in the area of business and commerce?
Yeah, because American, the whole American ideology is a mixture of focus on business and America's military ambitions, expansionist military ambitions. For example, invasion of Iraq and bombing of Afghanistan. So this is the, American ideology is too much focusing on this, American nationalism. So this is what Hamid is resisting. He is critically analyzing America.
Okay, any questions please? I don't want to monopolize.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm interested to know why Indonesians, because we don't have a department of American cultural studies in Malaysia. I'm interested to know why
You have it.
You have a science department, and what is the purpose of such departments?
Okay. Should I answer that?
Yes.
Thank you very much for the questions. Well, probably why do we have American studies? Well, why not? in our Faculty of Cultural Sciences, we have programs in foreign languages. We have Arabic, we have French, and then Japanese, we have Korean, Chinese. No, we don't have German. German as a center of study. Chinese and foreign studies, we have 6 of them, and then session with American studies. So it's not something that is special, but it has been there in for so long. So it started with Pusat Studi, we call it, and then it developed, become a program, study program. So we have English, and then to be specific on English, we have the American studies.
What is the job scope for an American study? What is the job scope? What kind of jobs they can do once they graduate?
Yeah, many different fields actually, but most of our graduate works in the academics, so they also teaching. Many of them have already got the place in institutions teaching English. So in order to be able to teach or becoming a lecturer, they have to graduate from master's degree and then continue to doctoral degree. And if you have the English literature or language as a background, then you can continue in American studies. And also some of the students also work at the different kind of fields in the foreign, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also in becoming one of the ambassador and work in the foreign offices as well. And some of them work in the what do you call the what do you call that? The exchanges the currency.
And I graduated with my master's from Arizona State University, and we have a program that teaches Indonesian Malay. Actually, they call it Malay language, but it's actually interested because they're more, Americans know more about Indonesia than Malaysia. So perhaps this is one of the results of such a program.
And there is a very strong connection. Obama lived in Indonesia, right? For 6 years. So I was anticipating a paper on Obama's life in Indonesia.
Yeah, but the program that's developed as the theories in American studies also developed. We are not just focusing on the area study, so it doesn't mean that students have to focus on the study of America as with the geographical boundaries, but how it can give impact to other cultures. So one of the projects for our doctoral degree is on Mahathir Mohamad's foreign policy, how America had something to do with his policies and things like that. So some of them also doing research in how the values in the United States influence the people in Papua, for example, because there is the biggest mining company in the United States that operated in one of our biggest.
So some of your students could be from political sciences, could be from other fields, right?
Yeah, the background, but most of them are from the English department. We have from the history, from anthropology, and many others, but like 95% are from the English
Do you teach
department.
only postgraduates?
In American studies, only postgraduates, yeah, for master and doctoral degree.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, please? Okay, Mahia.
I have a question for the presentation on Lana Del Rey. I found it very interesting. So I want to know, in your opinion, do you think that post-feminists like Lana Del Rey, do they propagate anti-feminism and outdated gender roles, or are they propagating more individualism and diversity? So, yeah, which one do you think?
I think it's more of the second case because Lana Del Rey emphasizes on individual choices and how women should have decision over her own choice as long as she knows the consequences. So I think it's more of the second.
Okay. Time for the last question. One more question. Yes, please.
Okay, it's not that because you asked questions and then I asked. It's interesting to listen to the presenters because, well, I know that this is the International Islamic University, so things have to evolve around the Islamic teaching and things like that. This is something that we haven't think about that very seriously. So when we study American studies, for example, we study them not for the benefit of our culture, not always like that. So, for example, my interest in the field of American studies also studying about religion, but it will be the majority religion in the United States, not the Islam. Only the values that we can learn from what we have researched and being brought into Indonesian context. But I'm interested, like the first, the latest presenters is
The last one.
the undergraduate. Yeah. But all the other presenters are graduate.
The two of them are master's student and one is PhD.
Okay, so you're very brave. Here and really, yeah, enjoy that. So see, what is it called? Put forward the teaching of Islam in other cultures' literature. Is that like a must for a student to always relate to the object of study, to Islamic teaching?
What has happened today is that most of them have touched on writers who have Islamic components in their writing. That is not to say that we do not study other writers. there is a secret behind it. All of them did this research under my supervision. And I teach Islamic literature. So when anything in their thesis relates to Islam, they come to me. Or they come to Dr. Emilia or Dr. Prof. Nur Farida. Quratul Ain did her PhD under Prof. Quayum. But the other three who presented today, these were my secret emissaries. So they partly represent my ideas because I read their work, I commented, and then finally they submitted, and alhamdulillah, both of these two master's students have graduated recently. I signed their one result yesterday, I'm not telling them now, but another paper maybe is being prepared for me to sign. So this is one secret, but since you have said that this is an Islamic university, we try to not give excessive focus on Islamic writers, but we try to strike a balance. The world we are living is not very fair. Muslim writers are marginalized. They are neglected. So if we do not bring them to the limelight, who will? So perhaps when we study Muslim writers, other people will take note of it. So this is one reason. But again, when we study non-Muslim writers, we also try to incorporate Islamic values, Islamic perspectives in their works. If their works do not support our values, we give a counter-argument. And if their works support our values, then we substantiate it with Quranic verses and hadith. What the writer is saying goes very well with my religion. Okay? Okay, that's it. So I have this small responsibility to say a few words, as this is called concluding remarks. This is written somewhere in the brochure, that's why I have to say a few words. Otherwise, this seminar will remain incomplete, and we do not want to make it incomplete after all these efforts. Let me tell you a little story behind this seminar. When we received the notification that some friends, guests from Indonesia are coming, and there will be 4 presenters, we lecturers were preparing ourselves like warriors. So there will be a battleground in this room, some fighters from Indonesia and we from our department getting ready to fight. Yeah? And people will be there and they will decide who are the winners. Only a few days ago, we came to know that our presenters from Indonesia are students. And we couldn't imagine that Indonesian students are so brave that they would present in front of us and they are simply master's students. Then we didn't want to take the risk. We lecturers present and Indonesian students present, and we get defeated. That will be highly embarrassing. So we went for our plan B. Plan B is set our emissaries and then let them fight. So this is how we ended up in this situation that students from both universities, they presented. Now, alhamdulillah, we feel relieved, and I feel very happy that I didn't present. Those warriors from our departments include myself, Dr. Emilia, Prof. Nur Farida, who couldn't resist. She came even though she was not presenting because we are so enthusiastic about this seminar. And we also considered one student at the beginning, that is Aisha. Okay? So this is the story behind this seminar. Alhamdulillah, all of us are very happy that our students did very well. All of you have exceeded our expectations. You have seen that I was using my mobile phone. I generally do not use mobile phone that often. But we are discussing with our lecturer. I was telling them, very articulate, very confident, exceeding our expectations. All those hyperboles I was using in my WhatsApp group. That's why, forgive me that I use my mobile phone from time to time. Now I have these few words to tell all of you as Muslim students, Muslim lecturers, Muslim academicians. We Muslims largely, all around the world, we are consumers. We go to supermarket, buy goods and products manufactured by Western companies. We go to bookstore, we buy books produced by non-Muslim writers. We come to university, the textbook that we give to our students is written by non-Muslim scholars. We are consumers in every area, in knowledge and in goods and services. Unless and until we make an end to it, unless and until we contribute equally in the realm of knowledge, I don't see any hope for us Muslims. All these tortures, all these sufferings in Myanmar, in Palestine, or everywhere, have a theoretical foundation. And that theoretical foundation is produced, manufactured by scholars. They do not come to the street, they do not come to big demonstrations, but they are the people who produce knowledge and influence people. Institutional education has three features. One is knowledge production, knowledge management, knowledge sharing. The cream of these people are the knowledge producers. They are the people who are dark horses. They do not appear in public. They are not prime ministers. They are not rectors or vice chancellors. They simply produce knowledge and they influence society. The second categories are knowledge managers. University rectors and vice chancellors, publishers, these editors, these are knowledge managers. And then the third one is knowledge sharers. This is the lowest, adaful iman. You know the hadith? ذَلِكَ adaful iman. Three categories of Muslim. The lowest category are knowledge sharers. We simply share knowledge. Muslims are in the lowest category. Other people are producing knowledge. We simply share with our students. And